You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 283. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, author of How to Get On Podcasts, the podcast matchmaker, and CEO and founder of the MLG Collective. I'm excited to share the stories and life lessons of changemakers and authors with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and today I have a repeat guest for you, Angela Brown, author of Olivia Strauss's Running Out of Time and Some Other Time, is back joining me, and we are talking about her newest novel, Some Other Time, which is not a thriller, and yet it had my stomach completely in knots because I didn't know what was going to happen. So it was like a total thriller for me. There's no killing or anything like that, though. We are talking not only about her book, but we're talking about motherhood. We're talking about life, communication, relationships. This was such a fun conversation because I adore Angela. I love her books, but I adore our friendship most of all. So I think you're really going to love what we have to say together. Hello, Angela.
Hi, it's good to see you again.
It's so good to see you. It feels like it hasn't been that long, but
I
it's probably
agree.
been, 6 months since we've seen each other in person?
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
was like early-ish
June?
summer. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was like June, May, somewhere right around there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so it's been almost every 6 months, so we were due for
it's true.
another get together because it was 6 months before that too, I love it.
Yeah, we'll keep that on the schedule.
I like that. Can you reintroduce yourself to everyone since you are a repeat guest? Those are
Sure.
few.
Thank you for having me again. I'm Angela Brown. I'm the author of the novels Olivia Strauss is Running Out of Time, which came out last year, and a new novel called Some Other Time. Yes, I play with the theme of times, which we can talk about. Some Other Time just pubbed this week, so I'm excited to talk
Congratulations.
to you very much. I
And I
appreciate
got to read it last year.
it
So
last year, which is exciting and fun. Those very first readers, it's always nerve-wracking. So I was happy you were one of them.
but it was good, and I was rereading my review this morning of what I put, and it all came flashing back of, I know this isn't a thriller, but my stomach was in knots of, oh
It's
my God, what's going to happen?
there are a lot of twists and turns in the book. Again, not thrillery, but there's a lot of playfully, I think, unexpected twists. And that's what I hope, at least.
Yes. And it's kind of like a play on It's a Wonderful Life, which
A
I
little,
love.
yeah, me too. That's when I very, very, very first mentioned the idea to my editor. That was a really like brief elevator pitch, but I basically said something to that effect. Like it's sort of like a contemporary play on It's a Wonderful Life, a little bit, but not really. But that's always, the idea for the story came out of a lot of places, but that was definitely one of them. That's always been one of my favorite stories. And I love the idea of a butterfly effect narrative and just the ripple effects that we create in characters in books or in real life just from the choices we make. It's just a topic that always interests me. I'm a
So
structure.
we should give everyone a synopsis of like what the book is about without the spoilers, but do you want to give us your elevator pitch now that it's written and
Oh,
published?
I'm not good at giving elevator pitches of my own work because I want to talk too much about them. Um, so Some Other Time is the story of a woman named Ellie Baker who is on the brink of divorce with her husband Jonah. They've been married for about 20 years. And they're just at a turning point. Their only child has recently left for college, and their relationship has changed a lot. And for a lot of different reasons, they've decided it's time to split. So the family flies down to Florida to tell Ellie's retired parents, Bunny and Frank, that they've decided to get divorced. Everyone is second guessing this. No one, including Ellie, is sure if this decision is right. And through a magical turn of events, Ellie, shortly after her announcement, wakes up in an alternate version of the present day, one in which she and her husband Jonah were never married. And she has the opportunity for 1 week to see the impact that her choices, and particularly her choice to marry her husband, um, what the effect of them has been, not only on her life, his life, her parents' life, and really everybody else that she's associated with.
It's so good, and it's probably something that many of us ask. I'm sure we all ask this of ourselves at one point or another of like, "What if I didn't do this? What if I didn't make this decision? Then what would have happened?"
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I've always, like I said, I've always loved butterfly effect stories. And I'm one of those people too. Like, I really try to think a lot about the choices I'm making, whether they're big or small. It's a big conversation we have with our kids a lot. Like, the choices you make every day, the way you talk to people, your actions, like, they have a very real impact on the world, both good and bad. So, you have to really think about them. So it's something I take very much to heart. Um, but it was funny, the exact narrative. I knew I had wanted to write a butterfly effect story for a long time. I never knew if I would, because it's rather ambitious. They're not the easiest things to write. I sort of wanted to pull my hair out more than once while writing it. But the idea for the actual story came to me this one evening. I can't remember if I've ever told you this. But my husband and I, we're not high school sweethearts or anything like that, but we've known one another our entire lives. We're friends from high school. And we met on our very first day, very first block of freshman year in the back of Mrs. Yard's English class. He said hello to me and asked me if I wanted to like not take notes, which I was like a note taker and a real studious kind of gal, and asked if I wanted to play cards instead in the back. And I said, yeah, I do actually. And that's a completely true story. We played the game War on the floor in between our desks for like the first, semester of freshman year. And that's how we met. And then we caught up many, many years later in adulthood. But anyway, several years ago, it was right after my son had been born. My husband and I and both of our kids were sitting outside on this really nice summer evening. And it was just like a really nice time in our lives. It was kind of like a lot of things that we'd been working toward for many, many years were finally there. We'd been working and saving for a really long time to buy a home, and we had just purchased it and moved in. I'd gone through really unpleasant fertility stuff for many, many years, and then finally had my second child, and he was there with us. It was just like all these things were finally there, and our life just felt like this is it. Like, this is what we'd been waiting for. And we were talking about that, and my husband said something to the effect of, isn't it funny that if we'd made one different choice, if when we were 14 years old, I didn't say hi to you and you didn't say hi to me, that literally none of this might exist. Like, there might be a completely different family living in this house right now. And it was like a really simple comment for him to me, but it was also really profound to me. And when he said it, like that night, the idea for the story it wasn't all there, but like it started to kind of unravel itself a little bit, because I was like, he's right. Like, that's really funny how one little choice could really change so much. So
And there's so many little choices along the way
yeah, it's
that could
paralyzing.
also just deter. I mean, I think about it, I think back to like college decisions of where you
Oh yeah.
decide to go. And I'm going, well, what if I had made a different decision? Then my career path would have been totally different, which then means that I wouldn't have been at the conference where I met my husband. Like, there's all these little things that, yeah, if you made these one different decision,
Hmm.
none of it would all have fallen into place the way it is today.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something I think about a lot. And so it was fun for me to write a story kind of rooted in that. And particularly, I wasn't sure at the beginning how I wanted to execute the story. There were a lot of different types of drafts where it wasn't a woman getting divorced. Like, there was one early draft where she was a widow. There was one that was like very thrillery. Like, I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted her current moment to be. And then I thought divorce is kind of an interesting one, because it's, her really thinking about her family and stuff. So it ended up becoming really fun to play with her perspective on realizing how seemingly insignificant things really did matter in the end. It was
Hmm.
fun.
And it was also a story of her really figuring out what she wanted to do because she was a stay-at-home mom for all of these 20 years. And now their daughter is off in college. And she's like, what do I do? And I
Mhm.
think that can resonate with so many too, of whether or not you're a stay-at-home mom, like when they leave, there's a big empty hole of, okay. I mean, I look at before we were getting on, like how busy we both are with our kids. And, just this week alone, last night we had Boy Scouts, tonight we have Lego robotics, tomorrow there's a Boy Scout dinner, then Friday there's a father-daughter dance, then Saturdays, it's constant.
It
And
is.
so once they're gone, you're going to be like, oh, I have time. I'm not running around. What do I
Yeah.
do with myself? And that's a big struggle for Ellie in this book of what do I want?
Yeah, it was funny. So somebody was asking me recently, like, have you ever been home full time with your kids? Like, is that where I said, no, I haven't. I'm fortunate as a full time writer. I have a lot of flexibility to be around for pickups and drop offs and schlepping through activities and all of that. But I've literally worked since I'm 16 years old. I've never not. But to your point, I thought it was interesting to make her a woman who, and I was very conscious to make sure that it was her choice. It was never her husband's choice telling her, like, you stay home with the kids or anything like that. Like, it was very much a choice that she made. And I think many women do that. She was, I really want to dedicate myself to this. I want to be here with my daughter. And there's backstory that she had a previous career and a previous job, and she chose to leave it to be with her daughter. And then when her daughter grows up, as children do, as you hope, she's really left with nothing, or so that's how she feels, at least. But it was interesting because I've never been in that situation myself. And I do have two kids, but my kids are not college age. I have a 2.5-year-old, and uh, my daughter will be 9 in like 3 weeks, which is crazy. Um, but when the story started to come to me, I was mentioning it was right after my son was born. And because of a lot of what I'd been through, my daughter had been an only child. There's like 6.5 years age difference between my two kids. My daughter had been an only child for a pretty significant stretch of time. And we were so thrilled when my son was born. Obviously, we were just over the moon for him, and he's the best. But there was this real tug at my heart too, because I knew that in order to welcome him, there were going to be parts of my relationship with my daughter that I would have to kind of let go a little, right? Like, she wasn't going to be the baby anymore. She was going to be the big kid now. And so I was having a lot of feelings at the time of just knowing there are things that I have to let go because she's one, just growing up. And like I said, she's the big kid now. And so I was thinking about a lot of those things, like, what must it be like, when you reach this stage, whether you're a stay at home or whatever, however you fill the hours of your day. A mother is a mother is a mother,
Hmm.
we're all over the place, and we're never not thinking about our children and planning and, doing all the things. And then it's just like full break, stop. So I thought it was a good way to play around with her character and the emotions she's experiencing. Um, but I was able to draw parts of it, I think, just from my own emotions at the time of, when you have kids, you 1 minute they're running around in diapers, and the next minute they're like, asking for Taylor Swift tickets. Where, how did that happen? Where's the one with the little, plastic toys running around and stuff? So yeah, I drew some inspiration from my own life too.
Yeah. Taylor Swift. Yes.
We have a lot of that in our house right now.
Oh, same, same. Yeah. Because my daughter she's almost 9.
I was going to
And
say our
then,
kids are the same age.
yeah. Yeah. And then my son turns 10 in 3 weeks. So yeah, they're probably right about the same. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But I liked her character very much. I think Ellie is simple, right? Like, she's the type of woman to me who I feel like in real life gets overlooked a lot because she's just a stay-at-home mom, and she's kind of the one that everyone knows they can call on all the time to do the bake sales, do, you know, like do all the fundraisers and stuff. But she doesn't feel as valued because she feels like that's all she's done when other people are doing that plus. You know what I mean? So I thought she was exciting for me to look at, to see the feelings that existed inside of her in those circumstances.
That reminds me of I interviewed Nora Dahlia, right? The pickup,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
That
how
was
in her
a book cover, by the way.
yeah, in her book she talks about how like even the school counselor, the principal is like, "Hey, mom," and
Mm-hmm.
that's how the mom is referred to. There's no name. You're just mom. That's that's your identity. That's who you are, and that's it. And how that that is the way that you might feel when you get to that point of, yep, I show up and this is what I do. I pick up and drop off, and I'm the PTA mom and I'm the room mom, and I do all the things,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still so much more. And where does your identity, you know, leave that? How do you mesh it together and, still have your name and be more than mom and be known as more than mom? So
Yeah, and figuring out how to be happy, I think, in that next stage of your life, in that next stage of your marriage, and just how things change, you know, and how we sort of adapt and evolve with them.
yeah. And
Right.
I gotta say, I did love Jonah. I thought he was so sweet.
He is sweet. I really liked him too.
made
Somebody,
made me a little mad at Ellie. I'm like, what are you doing, you fool?
yeah, I had a few people tell me they were frustrated with Ellie because he's such a good guy, right? But I think that was important to me though, because one, it's funny, somebody very close to me who always reads early copies of my books, she said something like, she was like, you always write really nice guys. Like Andrew in your first, like he was just like a nice guy, and Jonah's just a nice guy. And I was like, I don't know, I'm very lucky. Like my father and my husband, like they're just good people. Like I guess I'm just inspired by having good men around or something. But I think, and I some readers who I've spoken to, like I said, what was the deal with Ellie? He was so nice. What a catch! Like what was she doing? But I think the point for me is making him exactly that way, because when you're married to somebody for 20 odd years, of course that person's wonderful, presumably because you've stayed married to that person for that longer, so one hopes in the best of circumstances, right? But when you're in it, sometimes you lose sight of seeing it that way, and I think
Mm.
that's just a reality. You know, you're with your spouse all of the time, and you're, you know, like there's this one paragraph in the book that I really liked, and even when my husband read it, he laughed. He was like, that is in fact very relatable. Where, you know, it's just like you forget that that's the person you fell in love with, because marriage is just, you know, yelling about the dishwasher being broken again some days. Like you're just caught in the cycle of the days, and just trying to like hold everything up all the time. And so I didn't want to make him a jerk or like an unlikable character, because to me that's kind of the point. Like people sometimes love each other, but they drift apart because they forget how good they have it. They forget, you know, and I think that's what a lot of the novel is Ellie having the chance to hit the reset button and gain a fresh perspective on what her life already is, and to maybe stop longing for a past that's not there, or aspiring toward a certain future, but just realizing, you know, this is right. You know, this is what's good right now.
I
So
think it
yeah, I
was
like
also
it, you know.
I think it was a good reminder too that I felt like Ellie didn't communicate with Jonah in the way of, this is how I'm feeling and this is what I want. And like, would that decision have made a difference if she had just said, hey, you know what, I think I'm losing myself, or I want more, or what if I go get a job, or
Yeah,
what do you feel about this? Or, and obviously we all love Jonah because Jonah would have been all cool, do it. Like
he would have cared. He would have supported it completely. I agree. But I think that's, you know, for many women, I think sometimes when it comes to talking about our those types of desires for like things we want for ourselves, career wise or otherwise. And just like the identities that we sort of thought we would have, but maybe haven't. And you know what I mean? Just accepting ourselves at different phases in our life. I don't know that we talk about that quite as much in day to day life. I don't all the time. I probably should, but you know, and that's part of the point too. I think we get so caught up in the day to day and we get so busy. And I think she's a character who is very real, at least in my eyes. But you know, she's frustrated, but she's sad. Like she's sad that this stage of her life that she loved is over. And I think whether it's motherhood and seeing a certain stage of parenting, or you know, our kids like being in a particular stage, um, moving on, or any other different part of our life, like I think we all have a part that we cling on to and wish like this is the sweet spot. I don't want this part to end. So there's a really quiet grief about her too that feels very relatable to me, because it was funny, like in my first novel, Olivia Strauss is Running Out of Time, the protagonist, in very different circumstances, grapples with similar themes, I think, that she's at a point in her life where she realizes, I thought I'd be somewhere different, and I thought the future I was walking into would be different. And she wants to kind of, I think, reach out and grab on to her future and become the person she wants. Whereas Ellie, in some other time, I think just wants so badly to go back into the past and to hold on to it again, because she loved it. So I don't know. I think we tend to do both those things probably.
Well, something you mentioned of wanting to go back into it. I think that when we're living in this moment, especially as moms, that we
Mhm.
don't realize it because we're doing so many of the things
Yeah.
until years later. Like I'm looking back, we recently had a digital frame. We got it. It was a gift. And so I've been loading on, there's like 500 photos and it goes all the way back to when the kids were babies. And living in that, my kids are a year and 3 weeks apart. So it was like crazy time all the time. And I'm looking at it going, oh, you know, I wish that I could have those days back. But you
With
don't
perspective,
realize, I'm
right?
going to cry. I'm like, you don't realize it while you're living in it until
Yeah.
now you don't get to, have those little warm bodies.
Yeah.
Goodness.
I, I had a lot of those moments while writing this. And yeah, I mean, that's really what it is to me with Ellie's, oh geez, I keep hitting this, with Ellie's character is she's important to me because she made a choice. She wanted to dedicate herself to her family. And now she's reached the end of it and is thinking, what now? What do I do? You know, she just feels so lost in her grief of that those good times being over, that she doesn't have the foresight in that moment to see how good it still is and to see how much she is still needed, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And I like writing about women who just feel, to me, just like everyday heroes, you know, like, and that's a big theme in the book that's significant in my own life. It is, you know, not feeling like, sometimes we feel like everything we do in our lives have to be so enormous and big and fireworks and spectacular. And I'm a person who really feels in my heart of hearts like there's real beauty in just having a simple life. Like just wake up every day and do the right things and love the people you choose to love, and just like put some good energy out into the world. Like there's something to be said for those people too, not just the movers and the shakers and you know all of that, which obviously is also of value too. But and so I like characters like Ellie, and I think my first protagonist, in a again in a different way, but I think she was like this too, because in a lot of ways she felt like a character who was maybe living too simply and was overlooked. Um, you know, but I think those people are really of value.
Yeah. I want to go back to simple. I think I'm one of those people who's like, oh, I need to do something big. I need to keep going bigger. And yet at the same time, inside, I'm going, I just want calm and simple. And like,
Yeah, it's a
I
balance.
need to find that balance. Yeah, I'm looking for that balance. So if you have the balance, let me know.
I don't balance in anything. Um, no, I mean, I think that's something I think about in my own life too. Like I try, and you and I, we were talking a little bit before about like creating, we're both self-employed, like creating boundaries and, between work life balance and all of that. And just trying to say, this is enough. I did enough today. And now I just want to do simple things. I want to just sit and quietly read a book in the sun. Like I just want to go to my kids', basketball game and actually watch it and be there to see it and be present for it. Like just simple moments I think are important, you know.
Yeah. We need to turn those phones off. I do.
I have, as I'm sure the majority of people do, have such a love-hate relationship. That's one of my things. And we were talking about boundaries, and I was telling you a little bit about some of my, I don't know if they're goals, but new things I've been setting for myself for the new year. And that's one of them. At a certain time at night, my phone goes in the other room. And I'm like, I don't want to see it. Like I just want to hang out. If I'm washing the dishes, I just want to wash the dishes, like feel the water and not be getting 15 news alerts,
Yeah.
the whole time. And that, yeah, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah. Are you working on something next?
I am. I'm
Of
working
course
on,
you are. This is your job. Of course you are.
I'm working on a book that, this one's coming to me a little bit slower. I love the idea. It still is playing with, I think, a little bit of the idea of like identity and time, but in a new and fresh way compared to my other two books. So I'm hoping to have that one done like by spring, and then we'll see. And then I think I'm gonna take a few weeks and
Just a few weeks.
just like play around. I have a few ideas in my head for future things maybe, but I'm not sure. Like I just want to sit and play and say I'm just gonna play with this today and just see if anything sticks. So
I
we'll see what
love
happens.
it. Back to back books is a lot. So kudos to you. That, yeah.
It's There's definitely a cadence. I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful. I hope I'm always fortunate enough to be able to work at this cadence. It's exciting. Um, but yeah, I'll be very happy when this next project, when I type the end on it. I thought I did, and then I went back in and started to take apart the entire thing, reworking it
That's
now.
my fear. I'm at a point where I'm like, oh, you know what? I could probably scrap this or do that. And then I went, but then I'm like starting over and dear
Yeah,
God, that's wasted time.
my writing process for every book it's been so different for each of them. And this one, I thought each time I think my prior writing process will work. And then each time that book just like gives me a swift kick. It's like, nope, no, it's not. Just kidding. You have to find a new way to do this. So this has been no exception. So yeah, I it's funny. You can just tell. It's like a feeling. I feel like, when you're writing something and if somebody else reads it, they'll be like, this is right. And you're like, there's something's not there. Like I just
Hmm.
know it and I can't explain it until I take it all apart and like brush away all the debris and figure it out. But sometimes I think you just have to do that. It's not always a clean cover to cover draft. But yeah, but I'm happy with this one so far. So yeah, another bit of work and then off it goes.
Good. I can't wait. Where
Thank
can
you.
everybody find you? Where can they pick up some other time? If you were paying attention, it was a January 1st read, but we're now in February. So
So you can pick up some other time pretty much everywhere where you prefer to buy books. You can find me online. I'm mostly on Instagram at Angela Brown Books and on my website, which is also angelabrownbooks.com.
thank you so much for coming back on. I love getting to chat
Really,
with you.
anytime. It was fun to chat with you and to see you. 6 months, we'll make a date.
Yes, love it.
Perfect.
What questions came up for you as you listened to both of us talking about this great book some other time? Is it about the times from before? Is it about what you're considering going forward? What are you missing? What choices did you make that you're wondering, if I'd made a different choice, what would have happened next? I think these are all questions we grapple with at one time or another, along with longing for that simple life. I'm longing for it right now. I am going to go take some time after this and read a book, chill out, maybe do some bank reconciliations, because those are fun things to do. And remember to enjoy the simplicity of life. Remember that what you're doing is worthy, and that everything is really time that you blink and you might miss it. So slow down and enjoy every moment, especially the ones that are right in front of you, and hug those little people. They grow up way too soon.